The focus of today's adventure takes us to the wilds of Southern California. Prehistoric ages has provided us with many predecessors of today's species. The once predominant Cro-Magnon surfer is no exception. At one time, this aquatic primate freely roamed the coastlines of the earth. This model of the Cro-Magnon surfer clearly shows its adaptability to his ocean environment. Not much has changed over the past 5 million years for our friend the surfer. But due to tidal fluctuations and social ostracization, this species was forced to migrate to the southwestern coastline of North America. Once the species had settled into their new environment, they eventually evolved into Surface erectus, or as they're more commonly referred to as the surfer. Here we have the surfer in his natural habitat. Notice his thick multicolored coat, which helps insulate him from the icy waters of the Pacific. As you can see, these creatures are very dependent upon their shoreline habitat. If they are separated from their natural element, they oftentimes find it difficult to adjust. This is due in large part to their limited cranial capacity, which is similar to that of another sea mammal. This week, we find ourselves with the insurmountable task of tracking and capturing a surfer who has gone astray. Somehow, our friend the surfer has managed to wander into the urban recreational facilities known as Balboa Park. In a moment, we'll begin our adventure.
At Mutual of Balboa, we're dedicated to serving our customers. Our claims adjusters are available 24 hours a day.
Hello, Mutual of Balboa? I've had sort of a fender bender. Oh,
And a house call is never considered out of the ordinary.
It's terrible. It's hot.
There. Mutual Balboa's here now. Well, it looks like you will have to pay a $200 deductible on the fender. But you're covered for vehicular homicide and body removal. I don't see any other problems at all. You're all set.
Mutual of Balboa understands that people make mistakes. It's only human. We like to treat people as humanely as possible. At Mutual of Balboa, we take care of you, one way or another.
Our journey begins at the helicopter pad where Jim introduced me to Jake, our helicopter pilot. Shortly after takeoff, we discussed our flight plan. Although a bit hesitant at first, Jake finally agreed on a low-level approach from the park's southerly exposure, which would enable us to mask the sounds of our rotors. Shortly after entering the park's airspace, Jim spotted our subject. Our plan worked. The winds from the park's southerly exposure have masked the sounds of our approach. After several passes, the slow-witted surfer spotted our chopper and fled. But we knew where he was headed. Jake took us immediately to the park's helipad. Whenever Jim and I travel in a foreign country, or even a familiar urban location like Balboa Park, we prefer to use local guides familiar with both the terrain and the natives. We met with our guide Kimbo, who had been a native of the park since the big defense contract layoffs of the late 70s. Kimbo had assembled quite an entourage. All were eager to participate. But Jim reminded Kimbo that tracking was an exercise which required absolute silence. Kimbo agreed and suggested the perfect tracker. Jim agrees. Once Jim had selected the tracking party, he thanked the rest of the natives and bid our new friends a fond farewell. After wishing Jim and the tracking party the best of luck, I left in the company of 2 natives who planned to familiarize me with the local customs of the village.
With Marlin out of the way, we quickly packed up the gear and moved out. It wasn't difficult to track our surfer friend. Right away, Kimbo spotted some surfer droppings. With years of experience, Kimbo was able to quickly test the droppings and determine we were hot on the surfer's trail. We knew that the surfer had been here only minutes before us. Kimbo led the way. Kimbo's tracking was right on the money. We found the surfer. Instinctively, the surfer had been drawn to a familiar habitat. What our friend didn't realize was that the surf would never be up. To minimize the danger to both the surfer and the tracking party, we decided against an immediate capture. Continued observation would allow us to attain valuable information as to the degree of the surfer's disorientation. This would come in handy later, when we decided on the means of capture.
While Jim and the tracking party were hot on the surfer's trail, I busied myself gathering information from the natives on local customs and rituals.
After several hours, we began to notice the surfer displaying some adaptability to his new environment. We wondered if it was possible that this surfer had somehow evolved enough to begin interaction with modern society. Obviously not. Kimbo felt that the time was right to attempt a capture. I agreed. Since we were still quite a distance away, we decided to try and lure the surfer in closer. Our lures seemed to be working. The surfer took notice immediately. It looked as though our plan would be a success. Just when we thought we had him, he stopped responding to our bait. This surfer was obviously so disoriented that even our powerful lures had no effect on his natural instincts. Although the lures didn't work, we felt that the timing was still right to attempt a capture. We began to move in, quietly, with Kimbo leading the way. Just as we came within striking distance, Kimbo accidentally alerted the surfer to our presence. Our opportunity was lost. After Kimbo and I discussed the element of surprise, we continued the search. Once again, Kimbo had no trouble in picking up the surfer's trail. It looked as though Kimbo had found another clue to the surfer's whereabouts. He quickly tested it. Apparently, Kimbo and his finely tuned tracking skills needed a rest. The mime alerted us to something off in the distance. It was the surfer, all right. We had to move quickly. I decided we needed some help. Kimbo loaded the tranquilizer gun. I took careful aim so as not to damage any of the surfer's vital organs. Bingo! Right on target. It looks as though we'll need to use a few more rounds. This surfer obviously has developed a tolerance for our tranquilizer. I immediately had Kimbo bring me some more tranquilizers. After several more rounds, the tranquilizer began to take effect. We had to move quickly before the tranquilizer wore off. Once we got the net into position, we charged at the surfer. We totally immobilized the surfer. We've got him. Now all we have to do is wait for Marlin, who's been busy with the natives arranging for transportation back to the surfer's natural habitat.
Round the corner, she could that someone be Mac the Knife.
Sometimes transportation can be difficult to arrange.
The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
I arrived early the next morning. I decided to let Jim rest a few more moments while I bid my two new friends a fond farewell. While the party organized the gear, I congratulated Jim on the capture. We were all packed and ready to go, all except for Kimbo, who we presume had decided to catch a few extra winks. Apparently, Kimbo needed more sleep. As we approached the beach, we hoped that the surfer would recognize the sights and sounds of his natural habitat. Before releasing the surfer, Jim tagged him so that we could tell him apart from any other surfer that might wander from the beach. As an added precaution, we also equipped the surfer with a locating device. This specially designed radio transmitter will allow us to track the surfer's movements in the future. As you can see, the device is so small that it will not inhibit the surfer's daily activities in any way. Now came the moment of truth. Would the surfer's natural instincts carry him back to his natural habitat? Our plan worked. We all bid our surfer friend a fond farewell. As he paddled off into the rising tide, reunited once again with his natural habitat.
Join us again next week when we travel into adventure on Mutual of Balboa's natural habitat.